In this video, we will explore how to create an XML schema definition, or XSD file, that can be used to verify that XML is in the correct format when it's sent by a program that creates it or processed by a program that receives it from some other source. XSD files can be rather complex to work with because the syntax is very unique and specific to working with that file type. However, Studio makes it easy to create a starting XSD file for any given XML. So in this case, we already have our address XML created with some test data included as well. When I'm working with my XML file in Studio, I receive an XML menu that I can then work with. I'm simply going to create a schema by clicking Create Schema. Instantly, I'm given this XML file XSD that maps to my address nodes. Not expecting you to know the exact syntax for an XSD at this point, but we do want to explore it. So as you can see, it actually has an element and attribute structure of its own. So it's actually an XML file being used to verify the structure of an XML file. The one thing that you'll see here is that this XS schema actually defines this as an XSD file. Now beneath there, you can see that we have a placeholder for our address parent element, and that it's defined in this schema as something called a complex type. What that means is that that element can't simply be described as a numeric element or a text element, that it has attributes, child nodes, what have you. So as you can see here, all the child nodes that we defined in our XML file now become child nodes in this XSD file as well. That means that anyone who creates an XML file for this format and applies this XSD file to it had better have those nodes, and the casing better be correct as far as uppercase or lowercase on the names. Beneath this sequence of elements, you can also see that attributes are defined for effective date from and effective date to, and that it's making them required. So that's something that can be defined in an XSD as well, if something is optional or required. It's also interesting to note that Studio has tried to determine the correct data type for each of these elements. If we go back to our data, we have a street, no street 2 populated, we have a city, a state, and a zip, which is numeric. Back in the XSD file, it's actually determined that street 1 is a string type of data. Street 2 it has given no type because it has no information to work with. But city and state it believes are strings. And zip, it gives a type of unsigned short, which is in fact a numeric type of data. So there is intelligence within Studio that identifies the word zip and calculates that that's supposed to be a numeric value. Now it didn't do so well with the date strings, because as you can tell, it didn't know that they were dates, it didn't know they'd be numeric, so it made them strings. Still, it's pretty interesting that Studio at least gets someone that far along with creating their XSD file. Now, there's something else that you can do with XSDs that's rather interesting in Studio. You can actually map them to Studio itself, so when you're creating an XML file, those XSDs can be referred to make sure you're